Have you ever felt like the spark in your relationship is fading, even though the love is still there? In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to let daily routines, responsibilities, and stress take over, leaving intimacy on the back burner. But what if I told you there's a way to reignite that passion and connection, no matter how long you've been together? In this video, we dive into the real-life stories of couples who have rediscovered the deep emotional and physical intimacy they once had, through the power of communication and mutual respect. Stay with me until the end, because these stories not only offer hope, but practical tips that can transform your relationship. Whether you're looking to strengthen your bond, explore new depths of intimacy, or simply reconnect with your partner, what you learn here could be the key to unlocking a stronger, more passionate relationship. And if you're curious about how embracing openness and exploring intimacy can take your connection to the next level, this video is for you. So, don't miss out. Watch until the end to discover how to keep the love alive. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me. And if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. Alma and Luis had shared 15 years of marriage, a union that had been filled with joy, challenges, and the relentless current of daily life. From the outside, they seemed like the picture of a happy, stable family. They had 3 beautiful children who filled their home with laughter and chaos. And they both held demanding jobs that provided for their families, but left them perpetually exhausted. Their life had become a routine, a cycle of mornings spent rushing to get the kids ready for school, hurried commutes to work, and evenings filled with the demands of homework, dinner, and bedtime routines. While love was always present, it had become something quietly assumed, a steady but unnoticed undercurrent in the river of their shared responsibilities. Yet, beneath the surface of their seemingly ordinary life, Alma felt a growing unease. She couldn't quite place it at first, but it gnawed at her, a sense that something essential was slipping away. It wasn't a lack of affection or love. She knew Luis loved her deeply, but the spark that had once defined their relationship, the fiery passion that had brought them together, felt distant, like a fading memory of something that had once burned so brightly. She missed the way Luis used to look at her with admiration in his eyes, the way they used to share deep conversations late into the night, exploring their dreams, desires, and fears. Now, most conversations revolve around schedules, bills, and the logistics of managing a busy household. Intimacy had become infrequent, not because they didn't care, but because life had simply gotten in the way. One particular afternoon, while folding laundry, Alma found herself gazing out the window, her mind wandering back to the early days of their marriage. She remembered the way Luis would surprise her with small gestures, flowers, handwritten notes, or spontaneous dates. They used to laugh so easily and lose themselves in each other's company, and the physical closeness felt like a natural extension of their emotional connection. But now, the weight of their responsibilities felt like a thick blanket, smothering the vibrancy of their once passionate love. Alma couldn't remember the last time they had truly connected, and the thought filled her with a deep, aching sadness. She knew something had to change. The realization hit her with a sudden clarity. If they continued down this path, their marriage would survive, but it would be a shell of what it once was. And that terrified her. Alma didn't want to just be roommates, coexisting in the same space without truly seeing or feeling each other. She wanted to feel the pulse of their love again, to reignite the passion and closeness that had once been the foundation of their relationship. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. That evening, after the kids were in bed and the house had finally quieted down, Alma curled up with her phone and stumbled upon an article about relationships. It was about the power of open communication and how, for many couples, the first step toward rebuilding intimacy was simply talking. The article spoke of the need to reconnect emotionally before physical intimacy could be restored. As she read, Alma felt a stirring of hope. Maybe this was what they needed. Maybe if she could find the courage to share her feelings, Luis would meet her halfway, Maybe they could find their way back to each other. Determined to take action, Alma began to plan. She wanted to create a moment that would remind them both of the love they had always shared, but had let slip into the background of their busy lives. She decided to prepare a romantic dinner, something simple yet meaningful. She spent the next day shopping for ingredients, carefully selecting food she knew Luis loved. She bought candles and fresh flowers, and even dusted off the bottle of wine they had been saving for a special occasion. Alma didn't know if this small gesture would be enough to fix the growing distance between them, but she had to try. It was a start, and that was all she could hope for. The sun hung low in the sky as Alma began preparing the meal. The kitchen was filled with the comforting aroma of simmering sauces and roasting vegetables. She set the table with their best plates, lighting candles that cast a warm, flickering glow over the room. Alma's heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and nervousness as she arranged the flowers in the center of the table. She wanted everything to be perfect, but more than that, she wanted to create a space where they could feel safe to open up, to be vulnerable, to share the things they had been too busy or too afraid to say. When Luis arrived home that evening, tired from the long day, he was taken aback by the sight before him. The house was calm, the table beautifully set, and Alma stood in the kitchen with a soft smile on her face, her eyes glinting with a hint of mischief and warmth. He hadn't seen her like this in a long time, radiant, glowing with a quiet confidence that tugged at his heart. For a moment, he felt the familiar flutter of excitement he used to feel when they first started dating, when every moment together felt like an adventure. As they sat down to dinner, the atmosphere was different, almost palpable in its tenderness. They ate slowly, savoring the food and the moment, exchanging glances that spoke of something deeper than words. Alma felt a knot in her stomach. She knew the conversation she was about to start could either bring them closer or expose the cracks they had been ignoring, but she had to try. After dinner, they moved to the sofa, sitting side by side in the dim glow of the candlelight. Alma took a deep breath, her heart racing. "Luis," she began, her voice soft but filled with emotion, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about our marriage, about how much I love you, but also about how distant we've become." She paused, her eyes searching his face for a reaction. Luis turned to her, his brow furrowing with concern, but he didn't interrupt. "I miss you," Alma continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I miss the way we used to be, the way we used to talk, laugh, and just be together. I feel like we've lost that, and I don't want to lose us." Luis listened, his heart heavy with the weight of her words. He hadn't realized how much Alma had been feeling the same things he had. The truth was, he had noticed the distance too, but he hadn't known how to bring it up, afraid of what it might mean. "I miss you too," Luis admitted quietly, his voice thick with emotion. "I felt it too, this space between us. And I hate it. I love you, Alma. But I feel like we've been on autopilot for so long. I don't want that either." As the conversation unfolded, it was as if a dam had broken, releasing all the unspoken thoughts and feelings they had both been holding back. Alma talked about how she felt overwhelmed by the responsibilities of parenting and work, how sometimes it felt like they were just co-managers of their household rather than lovers. Luis nodded, sharing his frustrations, how he sometimes felt invisible, like his needs and desires had been pushed aside in the chaos of daily life. When Alma broached the subject of intimacy, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment, but she knew it was important to be honest. "I feel like we've lost that part of us," she said gently. "I want to feel close to you again, not just emotionally but physically too. I want us to explore each other again, to learn what makes us feel loved and desired." Luis reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "I feel the same way," he confessed. "I've been missing that connection too. It's not just about sex, though I miss that too. It's about feeling close, feeling like we're in sync. I want to make you feel cherished, Alma. I want us to find that spark again." They spent hours talking, more openly and honestly than they had in years. It wasn't easy. There were tears, moments of vulnerability, and raw emotions laid bare. But through it all, they found a new understanding of each other, a shared commitment to rebuild their relationship. Alma realized that the love they had wasn't gone. It had simply been buried under the weight of life's demands. And now, with this new foundation of openness and honesty, they could begin to uncover it again. As the evening wore on, they found themselves wrapped in each other's arms, not just as husband and wife, but as partners, as lovers rediscovering what had drawn them together in the first place. It was a beginning, an imperfect but beautiful step toward a renewed intimacy, one built on the courage to be vulnerable, to speak their truths, and to fight for the love they both so desperately wanted to preserve. That night, as they lay in bed, Alma felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in years, she felt that they were on the same path again, walking side by side, hand in hand, toward a future filled with love, passion, and a deep, unshakable connection. Alma listened to Luis with an open heart, her mind and spirit fully present in the moment. As he shared his thoughts and feelings, she could feel the vulnerability in his words. She saw a man who, like her, had been longing for something more, a rekindling of the connection they once shared but had somehow lost amidst the noise of everyday life. Alma, in turn, reassured him that she was not only willing, but deeply committed to working together to restore the bond that had always made their relationship special. They were a team, after all, and now more than ever, they needed to remember that. Their conversation soon ventured into more delicate territory, discussing ways to express their love that went beyond the traditional or the expected. They touched on aspects of intimacy that are often overlooked or not openly discussed, but were no less important to their relationship. Alma and Luis both realized that true intimacy wasn't just physical. It was emotional, mental, and even spiritual. It was about making each other feel seen, heard, and cherished in every aspect of their shared life. This new level of understanding brought them closer, as they recognized that their love, though tested by time, had the potential to grow stronger through mutual effort and intention. With the air between them lighter and filled with a renewed sense of hope, Alma and Luis made a decision that night. They chose to carve out some precious time, just for themselves, to pause the responsibilities and distractions that had so often pulled them apart and focus on reconnecting. They wanted to explore their intimacy with a fresh perspective, one that honored their individuality while deepening their connection as partners. This time together wasn't rushed or forced. It was tender and deliberate. Every touch, every glance, every word was filled with love and respect, ensuring that both felt comfortable, valued, and cherished. In the quiet intimacy of their home, they discovered that by communicating openly and without judgment, they could access a new depth in their relationship that had previously felt out of reach. There was a sense of safety in knowing they could express their needs, desires, and even fears without fear of rejection or misunderstanding. The walls that had been slowly built over the years, constructed of unspoken frustrations, missed opportunities, and silent longing, began to crumble. In their place grew a foundation built on trust, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to one another. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Alma and Luis found themselves not just restoring what they had lost, but creating something entirely new, something richer, more meaningful. They realized that the key to keeping the spark alive in their marriage wasn't a grand, one-time gesture or a quick fix. It was a continuous, ongoing act of communicating with each other, of maintaining a dialogue that allowed them to evolve together rather than apart. They made it a habit to check in with one another, not just about the logistics of their daily life, but about how they were feeling emotionally and intimately. They learned to express their desires and needs without fear, and perhaps more importantly, they learned to listen to each other with empathy and understanding. Each conversation brought them closer, dissolving any lingering sense of isolation or distance. Alma felt a renewed sense of connection to Luis, not just as her husband and the father of their children, but as her partner, her confidant, and her lover. Intimacy for them now meant more than physical acts. It was the emotional connection that blossomed when they opened their hearts to one another, when they made the effort to understand each other on a deeper level. It was the feeling of safety that came with knowing they were truly in this together, that neither of them had to bear the weight of life's challenges alone. Through this journey, Alma and Luis discovered that true intimacy was about creating space for vulnerability and, in turn, fostering a bond that made them feel more united than ever. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment too below to let me know that you are still here with me. Their love, once overshadowed by the demands of life, now thrived in the shared moments of quiet tenderness, in the deep conversations that made them feel seen and understood, and in the simple, everyday gestures of kindness and affection. They had learned that the spark they once feared had been lost wasn't gone at all. It had simply been waiting for them to nurture it with the care, communication, and mutual respect that would allow it to burn brighter than before. Together, Alma and Luis embarked on a new chapter in their marriage, one that was marked by growth, deepened connection, and a profound sense of gratitude for the love they had built and rebuilt, stronger than ever. The renewal of Clara and Javier. Clara and Javier had been married for a decade, a union built on love, laughter, and the kind of connection that once set their souls ablaze. In the beginning, their relationship had been full of excitement, with a spark so palpable it seemed like nothing could dim its light. They were inseparable, sharing dreams and adventures, and exploring life's possibilities together. But as the years passed and the responsibilities of adulthood took their toll, that vibrant spark began to flicker. The realities of raising two young children, coupled with the demanding nature of their jobs, consumed most of their time and energy. The intimacy that had once been the heartbeat of their relationship slowly slipped into the background, unnoticed at first, but eventually felt like a growing distance neither could deny. Clara, always reflective by nature, began to feel a sense of longing, an ache for the closeness they once shared. She missed the way Javier used to look at her with admiration and desire, the way they could communicate without words, simply understanding each other through a glance or a touch. The shared moments of passion, laughter, and vulnerability that had once defined their marriage seemed to have been replaced by the routines of parenthood and the pressures of their careers. She knew that the love between them hadn't disappeared, but the deep connection, the intimacy that made their relationship special, felt distant. One quiet afternoon, as Clara watched her children playing in the garden, she felt a pang of nostalgia. She remembered the early years of their marriage, the long nights spent talking about their hopes and fears, the stolen kisses in the kitchen, the spontaneous weekend getaways where they felt like the only two people in the world. It was in those moments that Clara realized how much she missed not just the physical intimacy, but the emotional closeness they once had. She longed to feel that connection again, to be more than just partners in the practicalities of life, but lovers and best friends, as they had been before the business of life got in the way. Determined to reclaim that part of their relationship, Clara began researching ways to revitalize intimacy in a marriage. She read articles, listened to podcasts, and sought advice from friends, hoping to find something that resonated with her. During her search, she came across a book that spoke to her on a deep level. It talked about the importance of open communication in a couple's intimate life and how respect and understanding could transform a relationship. The idea that true intimacy begins with vulnerability struck a chord with her. She realized that to bridge the gap between her and Javier, they needed to reconnect emotionally before anything else. That evening, as she sat alone in their bedroom, Clara made a decision. She would talk to Javier, not just about the physical aspects of their relationship, but about the emotional distance she felt growing between them. It was a conversation she had been avoiding for months, partly out of fear that it would be uncomfortable, and partly because she wasn't sure how he would respond. But she knew that if they didn't address the issue now, the distance between them would only grow. After putting the children to bed, Clara found Javier in the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting a warm light on his face. She sat down next to him on the sofa, her heart pounding with anticipation. "Javier," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately, about our relationship, and I feel like we've drifted apart." She looked at him, searching his face for a reaction. "I love you so much, but I miss the connection we used to have, the closeness, the intimacy. I want us to feel that way again." Javier, caught off guard, paused for a moment. He hadn't expected this conversation, but as Clara's words sank in, he realized that she was expressing something he had also felt but hadn't been able to articulate. "Clara," he replied gently, "I've noticed it too. I've felt that distance between us, but I didn't know how to bring it up. I didn't want to upset you, and I guess I just didn't know what to do about it." He reached for her hand, squeezing it softly. "I miss us too." The honesty between them felt like a weight being lifted. Clara felt a rush of relief knowing that Javier had noticed the same things she had, and that he, too, wanted to make a change. Together, they began talking for the first time in what felt like years. Clara shared how she had been feeling isolated, like they were simply going through the motions of life without really connecting. Javier admitted that he had felt the same, overwhelmed by the responsibilities of fatherhood and work, but unsure how to navigate those feelings without pushing Clara away. As they sat there, opening up to one another, Clara realized that this was a first step toward rebuilding their intimacy, not just physically, but emotionally. She told Javier about the book she had been reading, about how communication and mutual respect could reignite the passion in a relationship. "It's not just about sex," she explained. "It's about understanding each other's needs and desires, and making sure we both feel valued and appreciated." Javier nodded, listening intently. He had always loved Clara's thoughtfulness and her desire to understand things on a deeper level. "I want that too," he said. "I want us to feel close again, to make time for each other, even with everything else going on." That night, they didn't just talk. They committed to each other. They promised to prioritize their relationship, to make space in their busy lives for moments of connection, whether it was a simple touch, a kind word, or a shared laugh. They vowed to remember what had brought them together in the first place. They understood that intimacy wasn't something that could be restored overnight, but with patience, effort, and love, they could rediscover the passion and closeness they once had. As the weeks went by, Clara and Javier began to see the changes in their relationship. They made time for each other, whether it was through a quiet dinner after the kids were asleep or a long walk in the park on Sunday afternoons. They learned to communicate more openly, sharing their thoughts and feelings without fear of judgment. Slowly, they began to rekindle the intimacy that had once been the cornerstone of their marriage. Clara felt a renewed sense of connection with Javier, not just as her husband, but as her partner in every sense of the word. They found joy in the little things again. The way Javier would make her coffee in the morning, the way Clara would reach for his hand as they walked together. Their love, once seemingly lost to the demands of daily life, was now stronger than ever. It wasn't just about the physical acts of intimacy, though those moments became more frequent and more meaningful. It was about the emotional closeness that had returned, the feeling of being truly seen and understood by the person they loved most. In the end, Clara and Javier realized that the spark they had feared was gone hadn't disappeared at all. It had simply been waiting patiently for them to remember that love, true, lasting love, isn't something that fades with time. It's something that grows, deepens, and transforms when nurtured with care, communication, and respect. As they held each other close on that quiet night, they knew that this renewal was not just the start of a new chapter in their marriage. It was a beginning of a love that would only continue to evolve, becoming more profound with each passing day. Together, Clara and Javier made the heartfelt decision that they were ready to actively work on their relationship and reignite the intimacy they had once cherished so deeply. It was clear to both of them that their love was still vibrant, but it needed nurturing, attention, and an openness to exploring new ways to connect. They decided to take a bold step in that direction, starting by planning a weekend getaway, a time dedicated solely to one another, free from the demands of work, parenting, and the usual distractions of life. Their children would stay with their grandparents, allowing Clara and Javier the space to focus on themselves, something they hadn't done in what felt like years. As the weekend approached, Clara felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. It had been so long since they had taken time just for each other. and she wanted to ensure that this experience brought them closer. Javier, too, felt a quiet excitement bubbling within him. The thought of reconnecting with Clara on a deeper level filling him with hope. When they finally arrived at the cozy cabin nestled in the mountains, a sense of calm washed over them. The air was crisp, and the quiet surroundings made them feel as if they had stepped into a world of their own, away from the pressures of everyday life. That first evening, they sat by the fire, sipping wine and talking, not about the kids, work, or household chores, but about themselves, their relationship, and the things that had been left unsaid for so long. They spoke with honesty and vulnerability, slowly peeling back the layers of routine that had built up between them. The next day, after a long hike through the woods, they shared a candlelit dinner at a small table by the window, the flickering flames casting soft shadows across their faces. It was in this intimate setting that Clara felt a surge of courage. She looked across the table at Javier, her heart beating faster as she asked him a question she had been thinking about for a while. "Javier," she began softly, "what is something you've always wanted to try in our intimacy?" Javier paused, clearly taken aback by the question, but Clara's gentle tone made him feel safe to answer honestly. He had never been one to openly discuss such things, often feeling unsure or hesitant to express his deeper desires. After a moment of reflection, he confessed, "I've always wanted to feel more physically and emotionally connected to you, but I've never felt comfortable bringing it up." His voice was quiet, yet filled with sincerity. "I've always thought you might think it was strange or that maybe I wasn't satisfied." Clara smiled softly, reaching across the table to take his hand. "I want that too," she replied, her voice full of warmth. "I want us to be able to talk about these things and explore them together. As long as we both feel respected and comfortable, I'm open to anything that helps us feel closer." That night, with the soft glow of the candles still illuminating the room, Clara and Javier allowed themselves to be vulnerable in ways they hadn't been in years. They talked about their desires, their boundaries, and the things they had always wanted to explore but had been too shy or afraid to discuss. The trust between them deepened as they realized how liberating it was to speak openly without fear of judgment or rejection. With patience, tenderness, and a newfound sense of curiosity, they began to explore new forms of intimacy, both physical and emotional, that they hadn't experienced before. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. In those quiet moments together, they discovered that intimacy was about far more than the physical act itself. It was about feeling understood, cherished, and seen by one another. It was about allowing themselves to be fully present, to experience each other in new ways, and to appreciate the depth of their love without the distractions of daily life. Every touch, every whisper, every shared glance was a testament to the strength of their bond and the love that had always been there, waiting to be rediscovered. When the weekend came to an end and they returned home, Clara and Javier felt a renewed sense of connection. They had created a space for themselves to grow closer, not just for those few days, but in their everyday lives moving forward. They committed to one another that they would continue dedicating time to their relationship, no matter how busy life became. They promised to communicate openly about their desires and needs, knowing that the foundation of their renewed intimacy was built on trust, respect, and understanding. They also agreed to prioritize regular dates, simple, meaningful moments where they could reconnect and share their thoughts, even if it was just a quiet evening at home or a walk around the neighborhood. These moments became their anchor, a way to ensure that their love and intimacy remained at the forefront of their lives, even amidst the chaos of raising a family and managing their careers. As the months passed, Clara and Javier's relationship blossomed in ways they hadn't imagined possible. The spark they once feared had faded was now burning brighter than ever, fueled by the deep emotional connection they had cultivated through their open and honest communication. They realized that intimacy wasn't just about physical closeness. It was about being emotionally available for one another, about listening, understanding, and growing together. Their love, now stronger and more resilient, was grounded in the knowledge that they could face any challenge as long as they remained committed to nurturing their relationship. The transformation in their marriage was undeniable. They had gone from feeling disconnected and distant to experiencing a bond that was rich with passion, tenderness, and unwavering respect. Clara and Javier had learned one of the most valuable lessons of their marriage. True intimacy is not a destination, but a journey, a continuous, evolving process that requires effort, patience, and an openness to change. They discovered that by prioritizing their relationship, by taking the time to communicate and explore their desires, they could create a love that was not only enduring but endlessly fulfilling. And as they continued on this path together, they knew that their connection would only grow deeper, their spark burning ever brighter with each passing day. As we come to the end of Clara and Javier's journey, it's clear that rekindling love and intimacy in a relationship is not about grand gestures or perfect timing, but about the small, meaningful moments of vulnerability, communication, and mutual respect. Now, we'd love to hear from you. What have you learned from their story? Take a moment to reflect on one thing that stood out to you, something you might want to bring into practice in your own life. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. We'd love to continue the conversation with you. If you like this video, please leave your comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more insightful and inspiring content. Your support means the world to us, and it helps us continue bringing stories like this to life.